Yeah, it was the highest grossing film to date when it came out. He's like, "Are you ready? Because your life is going to completely change." And I was like, "Yes, bring it." And it was wild to be under that kind of worldwide scrutiny.
I just want to get right into it. Terminator 3.
Yep.
Okay. What is their name? Was it TS? Was it T3?
TX.
TX.
This is my character.
TX. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, how did you go about landing that role?
So it was a series of, gosh, maybe 10 auditions.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was intense. And I am not really like an action fan per se, but for some reason, I mean, I had started doing some action roles like Mortal Kombat Conquest was my first action role, a TV series I did. And
I remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And because I've always been tall, I've had a deeper voice. When I was younger, it was sometimes
Would they put
hard
you in Mortal
to,
Kombat? Sonya? Were you a
Taja.
I was Taja. That's
Taja.
right. Yeah, it was a
Gotcha.
different character. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think it might have been a new character for the series that they
It's
brought
funny though
on.
because
She's giving me Sonya Blade too.
There's a Sonya Blade character that you look like you would be like a dead ringer
Yes,
for.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. So, so I'd always been. Sometimes it was hard to cast me because I'd be taller than the guy playing my father, things like that when I was 16. But I thought, well, here's a role where I don't have to have any limitations. I can look the way I look. I can be the height that I am. I can sound how I am. And I had always loved Robert Patrick in T2. I was just blown away and mesmerized by his performance. And later he's become a friend and we did a movie together, and, which is great. But so for me, it was just like something clicked. And I went, oh yeah, this character, and again, because it was so physical and having the dance background, and learning the choreography for action, which was similar to learning dance choreography, it was just the right fit. And being inspired by Robert Patrick, even though wanting to create my own character, I went on this journey of very athletic auditions. And it would be, run and jump over the box and fall down and do a somersault and stand up and, look. And
very like parkour kind of.
But this was pre-parkour.
Yeah.
Parkour was not a thing yet.
Yeah.
But it was very physical, and I guess it worked. I heard that they auditioned. This is, I guess, another flexing moment, as you called it earlier.
Flexing.
I used to have a hard time talking about myself. My mother would have to do it for me when I was younger. So it's still sometimes I'm like, you don't want things to sound too braggy, but they saw like 10,000 women for the audition in various different countries all over the world, and for some reason it was just the right fit.
10,000. So that,
and I like pressure. I'm like, I really feel like that inspires me. And so anyway, I got the job and I went on this journey of getting in the best shape of my life. I put on 10 pounds or 15 pounds of muscle mass. I had a weight trainer. I had a mime coach, which was actually Jonathan Mostow, the director's idea, eliminating all the human traits of like showing exertion while running, blinking while firing a weapon, things like this. I worked with the LAPD, getting accustomed to using the 45. I had a nutritionist, Philip Goglia, who's a gentleman I've worked with. He's amazing. And actually working with him on that, he's worked with all the Marvel actors and things to help them get in their peak physical performance shape. So yeah, I had my body fat down to that of an Olympic athlete, and it was.
You looked good in that red.
Thank
list.
you.
That is iconic. We need to bring that.
So anyway, so that was the beginning of that journey.
Yeah, that's okay. So you answered my next question, because I was going to ask you, how did you prepare for that role? Because you didn't have a lot of lines in that movie, but it was all look and nuance, and even walking like a machine, but still human though. At the same, it was a balance there.
That's right. And I wanted to even bring in because I'm a woman, those little signs of femininity that maybe weren't in the script, but bringing to life, like when I'm tasting the blood, or there's a moment in the bathroom fight scene where I look in the mirror, kind of check myself out, things like this. And as I was saying beforehand, there's an importance for, even though I'm shooting a gun at people at point blank range, you've got to want to root for me subconsciously in some way, and that was really important for me to get across too.
Yeah. And then but you were still considered a Terminator in that movie, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you were the first. That was kind of risky for them to do that to a female Terminator, because Terminator had always been Arnold.
Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people are like, who is this woman? Like, who is this young woman who's pitted against this male iconic figure of cinema history? And I just kept saying to myself, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you who I am.
Oh, you did?
What was it like working with Arnold, though? Like, what's that experience?
He's great. I mean, he's got this larger than life persona. He's very gracious with his fans. I learned a lot by working with him on the fight sequences. And, just tried not to miss my mark and hit him in the face by accident, which I didn't.
Yeah. Was he sparking up his cigars?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You could always kind of you could smell the cigar, and then you went, oh, Arnold must be coming to set, before he got there.
Yeah. Did you ever get hurt doing that movie?
Luckily, no, is the short answer. I mean, I definitely got bruises. There's one scene where I become magnetized in the particle accelerator, and my body gets stuck, and I was in a harness there. And so there was, some bruising from the inside of the harness, etc. But luckily, no.
Can I dial it back for a second? I just have a question. You said 10 rounds of auditions. What were the rounds of auditioning? Why was it so many? Is it because of the amount of women, or this was you once you got it? It was multiple rounds for you.
Yeah, I must have gone in 10 times. I don't think that they really, oftentimes when they're casting, they don't really, I mean, sometimes they're specific, but sometimes they really don't know.
Okay.
And I remember the wrestler, China, I guess she just goes by China. Yeah. There was talk that they wanted her in the role, and that she was going to do it, so they could have gone that route.
You beat out China, girl.
And then
another flex.
I think, thank you. I think that Jonathan Mostow really wanted to find someone that was his own discovery, that was kind of a relative unknown, even though I'd worked quite a bit. I hadn't been on a stage that big before, so to speak.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Got you.
And that was going into my next thing. You're right on point.
Perfect.
So did things change drastically for you in your career after doing, because now this box office was how many hundreds of millions? Now
Yeah, it was the highest grossing film to date when it came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do that, what changes?
Again, I remember Jonathan telling me, you're not going to be able to pump gas without people recognizing you. Those were his words. And when he called me to let me know that I got the job, I was riding my friend's horse in Griffith Park. I'll remember it exactly. We were just crossing the bridge by Circle K. If any listeners out there ride there, they'll know where that spot is. And he's like, are you ready? Because your life is going to completely change. And I was like, yes, bring it. And it was wild to be under that kind of worldwide scrutiny.
Yes.
But I loved it. I loved it. Yeah.
So once the movie comes out, though, and I mean, it's critically acclaimed, everybody loves it. They receive it well. It makes money. I mean, how did things change for you in your career and in your personal life? Like, or is everybody, on Kristanna now? Everybody wants a piece of you. They want you to be in their movies and
Dating.
personally as well.
Yeah. It was. It's interesting. You could. I was able, thankfully, to see through the veil pretty well of like how people were just wanting to use you, so to speak. And so, I've always tried to just really remain true to myself
Mm-hmm.
and be me. I don't really think I've changed that much in it. I think
Mm-hmm.
I've always been pretty discerning about people's character,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see through it. But yes, that was definitely different for sure.
Okay. Did the jobs come pouring in and the offers?
Yes, they did. I mean, certainly it opened up various doors and on a worldwide stage, and
Yes.
working abroad, which was
Right.
great. But it's a hard business.
Yeah, it
And
is.
no matter what, because people say, okay, we saw you do that.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
But what's next?
What's next? Yeah.
Show us what else is in your box
And
of tricks.
especially when you have something that big, it makes it actually even more difficult.
So iconic,
Yes.
but that's the fun of being an actor, right? Is you get to mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I mean, certainly did a lot of action after that, and of course, drama too, and sci-fi. Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
I was gonna say, could you say you weren't a fan of action? Did you get into action after that? Did you become more of a fan of it?
No.
It's like,
I mean,
no.
I was a fan of doing it.
Okay.
I always enjoyed doing action because, again, it's something that makes sense to me physically, and although I can be certainly a critique, like these women that I see in action films sometimes, I will not mention any names, but who are running around in 3-inch spikes. And I trained in heels. I had to train in running in heels at UCLA, as a matter of fact, on the track. And I remember training in heels. They weren't 3-inch, they were like 2-inch, but Arnold wore boots, and I remember some of the kids on the track, they came up to me and they're like, "Man, your coach is cold. Like, can you like sprint in heels?" But I learned how to sprint on the balls of my feet.